She dreamed of walking down the aisle in silk and roses, but instead, she opened a door that shattered her fairy tale. In that single moment, her perfect wedding became the beginning of a far darker story. If this story resonated with you, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as crazy as this one, and you don't want to miss it. The gown hung in the center of the room like a living thing. Silk pulled at its hem in a waterfall of ivory, beads catching the light in tiny sparks. Elena Rossi pressed her fingers against her lips to stop their trembling as she stared at it. Tomorrow, she will wear it. Tomorrow, she would walk toward the man everyone told her was a dream come true. But why then did her chest ache with something she couldn't name? Elena was 29, with soft olive-toned skin and waves of chestnut hair that brushed her shoulders. Her eyes, a warm hazel, usually carried a glimmer of stubborn optimism, yet tonight, standing in her childhood bedroom where the veil had been laid out like a crown, they carried only shadows. She wore a simple blush sweater, ripped jeans, and her favorite gold hoops, comfort clothes, though her friends had teased her that a bride-to-be should float around in satin. She wasn't floating, she was heavy. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, a message from Nathaniel. "Can't wait for tomorrow. You'll be the most beautiful bride this city has ever seen." A perfect message, almost too perfect. He always knew what to say, how to say it, how to wrap every sentence in polish. Nathaniel Cole was a man people turned to look at when he entered a room. Blonde hair combed back with precision, a jawline sharp as glass, and tailored suits in shades of navy and charcoal. 34 and already a millionaire from his tech empire, he had the kind of presence that silenced spaces. Elena remembered the first night she'd met him. She had been waiting tables at a charity gala her cousin dragged her to. She spilled champagne on his cuff. He had only laughed, handed her a napkin, and said, "Guess I'll never forget you now." She thought it was fate. Now, 2 years later, she wondered if it had been something else entirely. On the other side of the city, Nathaniel Cole wasn't staring at a wedding gown. He was staring at his reflection. The penthouse bathroom gleamed like a showroom, every surface polished, not a thing out of place. He adjusted his tie even though there was no reason. He wasn't going anywhere. He just liked the ritual, the control. Control was everything to Nathaniel. Deals, appearances, emotions. Control meant no one could use you, no one could wound you. His fiancée saw him as stability, the rock she could lean on. The truth was, he leaned on his vices far more than he leaned on her.
His phone buzzed. Not Elena. Another name. A shorter message. "When she sleeps, come down." He smirked. The mirror version of himself smirked back. The next morning, Elena found herself in the sun-dappled garden of her parents' house, where the rehearsal dinner would take place that evening. Tables were draped with linens, flowers arranged like pastel clouds, and her bridesmaids laughed as they helped tie ribbons around the silverware. Her maid of honor, Leela, waved her over. Leela was dazzling, always dazzling. Smooth caramel-toned skin, long black curls spilling down her back, and a laugh that drew men's eyes in seconds. She wore a sundress the color of emeralds, bold and unapologetic. Leela had been Elena's best friend since college, the kind of friend who finished her sentences, who stayed up late with her through heartbreaks and dreams alike. "You should smile more," Leela teased, looping her arm through Elena's. "Your prince is coming tonight. Don't tell me you're nervous." Elena forced a laugh. "I'd be insane not to be." Leela's eyes softened. "He adores you. Everyone envies you. You know that? You got the kind of man women imagine in novels." Elena nodded. She wanted to believe it. But as the sun sank low, as guests began arriving for the rehearsal, Elena caught something strange in Leela's glance. something quick, unreadable. A flicker of guilt? Desire? She shook it off, telling herself she was imagining things. Nathaniel arrived late, but of course he made an entrance. Dark navy suit, cufflinks gleaming, a bouquet of orchids for Elena's mother. He kissed Elena's cheek instead of her lips, murmured something about being tired, about long hours at the office. Everyone else laughed, charmed. Elena, though, felt the distance like a draft through a cracked window. She squeezed his hand under the table. His hand squeezed back, but too quickly, as though to dismiss her worry rather than soothe it. And for a moment, she thought, what if tomorrow is a mistake? The thought scared her more than anything. That night, after the last of the laughter and clinking glasses faded away, Elena returned upstairs to her childhood room. The house was quiet. The wedding gown still glowed in the corner, waiting. She pressed her palms together, whispering to herself, "You're just nervous. Every bride feels this. Tomorrow, everything will be perfect." But deep down, she knew that sometimes perfection is the sharpest lie of all. The night before the wedding should have been filled with soft dreams and promises of forever. Instead, Elena Rossi lay awake staring at the ceiling of her childhood bedroom as the digital clock ticked past 2 a.m. Her chest was heavy with a pressure she couldn't shake, a gnawing unease that felt more real than any bridal jitter should. She pressed her palms together under the covers, whispering a prayer she hadn't said in years. Please let me be wrong about this feeling. Please let everything be right tomorrow. But when the ache inside refuses to quiet, sometimes fate leads you where you're terrified to go. Nathaniel Cole was not where he should have been either. The penthouse hotel suite reserved for the groom sat empty except for his monogrammed cufflinks tossed carelessly on the nightstand. He had sent Elena a message earlier. Working late, staying at the suite, big day tomorrow. Sleep well. The lie slid from his tongue as easily as wine. But Nathaniel always lived on edges. Edges of deals, edges of temptation. And tonight, temptation wore emerald silk. Elena told herself she only wanted to check. Just to see. Just to erase the twisting thoughts clawing at her stomach. It was reckless, maybe crazy. To sneak out of her parents' house in slippers and a thin cardigan, driving to the hotel suite Nathaniel was supposed to be sleeping in. But she couldn't breathe without knowing. The lobby was silent at that hour, marble floors echoing her hesitant steps. She forced a smile to the night clerk and pressed the elevator button with trembling hands. Each floor up felt heavier, as though gravity itself was warning her.
Her heart pounded when she reached the door. She fumbled the spare keycard Nathaniel had given her weeks ago. For emergencies, my love. She almost laughed at the irony. The lock clicked. And then silence. A silence so thick she thought maybe she had imagined everything. Until she heard it. A laugh. Low. Feminine. A sound she knew. A sound she had heard 1,000 times beside her, at brunches, in dorm rooms, on late-night phone calls when heartbreaks left her raw. Lila. Elena's hand shook as she pushed the door open. The world she had built came crashing down in one instant. Nathaniel's shirt was unbuttoned, his hair tousled in a way she had never seen outside of intimacy. Lila, her maid of honor, her sister in everything but blood, was tangled in the sheets beside him, an emerald dress abandoned on the floor like a serpent's shed skin. The air reeked of perfume and betrayal. For a moment, no one moved. Nathaniel's eyes widened first, then narrowed into something that wasn't guilt but irritation. Lila pulled the sheets higher, covering her chest, her lips parting as if to explain, but no words came. Elena's breath came in shallow gasps.
Her chest tightened, a scream clawing its way up, but her voice broke instead. "How could you?" Her words cracked like glass. Lila's face crumpled, eyes shiny. "Elena, I didn't mean... Don't," Elena whispered, her voice trembling but sharp. "Don't you dare." Her knees felt weak. She clutched the doorframe to keep herself from collapsing. Images assaulted her mind. Her gown waiting at home, the flowers her parents had arranged, the way her mother's eyes had shone with pride earlier that night. All of it now a mockery.
Nathaniel stood, running a hand through his hair, not bothering to cover himself. "Elena, listen." "Listen?" The word erupted from her chest, strangled and furious. "To what? To the sound of my best friend in your bed?" He sighed, the way a man sighs when a meeting goes long. "Don't make this dramatic. It was a mistake." Her vision blurred with hot tears. "A mistake? Tomorrow I was supposed to promise my life to you, Nathaniel. And you..." Her voice broke. She turned her eyes on Lila. "And you were supposed to stand beside me, my sister." Lila sobbed, reaching forward. "Please, Lena, Elena stepped back. The betrayal burned deeper than Nathaniel's. Lila's tears meant nothing now. The bond they had was severed in an instant. Her body shook as she forced herself upright, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "You've both destroyed everything. Congratulations." She slammed the door so hard it rattled, the sound echoing down the hotel hallway. The elevator ride down felt endless. Her reflection in the mirrored walls was unrecognizable, mascara-streaked, eyes red, lips trembling. She pressed her fists to her chest, trying to keep her heart from tearing out. When the doors opened, she stumbled out into the empty lobby, gasping for air like she was drowning. She pressed her back against a marble column and slid down, knees curling against her chest. Her wedding was hours away. Guests were already in town. A dress waited in her room. Her parents, her friends, everyone expected her to be a glowing bride. But how do you walk down an aisle when your heart has been gutted? The answer was simple. You don't. Elena curled tighter, her body rocking. Her fairy tale was dead, and the world would know it soon. If you were Elena, would you confront both Nathaniel and Lila further, or walk away without another word? Share what your heart tells you in the comments. The morning sun should have been golden, promising, soft. Instead, it felt harsh, burning through the curtains of Elena Rossi's childhood bedroom as though mocking her. She sat on the edge of her bed, still in last night's cardigan, slippers kicked off somewhere near the door. The ivory gown in the corner mocked her too, a cruel monument to everything she had lost in a single night. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand. 17 missed calls, 9 messages from Nathaniel, 3 from Lila. She couldn't bring herself to open them. She couldn't bring herself to breathe without hearing the sound of Lila's laugh echoing in her skull, tangled with Nathaniel's sighs. But she also couldn't bring herself to say the words out loud. Couldn't admit, "My fiancé slept with my best friend the night before our wedding."
To admit it meant facing the tidal wave. Family, guests, gossip, shame. To admit it meant the end of the fantasy she had been building for years. And so she resisted. She wrapped her arms around her stomach and whispered into the silence. "Maybe I dreamed it. Maybe I walked into the wrong room. Maybe..." Her voice broke. She knew better. Down at the hotel, Nathaniel Cole wasn't sleeping either. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his suite, city skyline stretching before him like a kingdom he believed he owned. His jaw was tight, hands buried in his pockets. He had texted Elena apologies, excuses, even offers to, quote, fix this. What he hadn't texted was the truth, that he didn't regret it. Not fully. Control.
That was his true addiction, and last night had been another flex of it. But now, control was slipping. He could almost see the headlines if Elena spoke. Tech tycoon exposed on eve of wedding. Investors would whisper, competitors would smirk. He poured himself a drink even though it was barely past 8. "She'll come around," he muttered. "She has to." Lila Alvarez wasn't so sure. Her emerald dress lay crumpled in the corner of her apartment like a crime scene. She sat cross-legged on the bed, hair still a wild tumble from the night before, face pale. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Messages from Elena, unread. Messages from Nathaniel, demanding silence. Her hands shook as she typed, deleted, typed again. Finally, she wrote one sentence to Elena. "Please, let me explain. I made the worst mistake of my life. Don't shut me out forever." She hit send, then dropped the phone and pressed her face into her hands, sobbing. She had destroyed the one person who had ever loved her like family. By midday, Elena's mother knocked on her bedroom door. "Elena, darling, the caterers are asking about final counts. Do you want to come downstairs?" Elena froze, throat tightening. She had forgotten. The house was full of flowers, people were preparing tables, and the whole town was ready for a celebration that would never happen. Her mother opened the door gently, her auburn hair pinned neatly, pearl earrings glinting. She wore a cream blouse and beige slacks, the look of a woman holding everything together. But her eyes softened when she saw her daughter still in yesterday's clothes. "Sweetheart." Elena forced a smile that cracked at the edges. "Just tired, Mama. Long night." Her mother sat beside her on the bed, smoothing a hand over Elena's hair. "It's normal. I was a wreck before my wedding too. But when I saw your father waiting at the altar, all the nerves disappeared. You'll feel the same." Elena swallowed hard, her throat burning. She wanted to scream. "No, Mama, I won't. He betrayed me." But the words caught in her chest like barbed wire. Instead, she nodded. "Yeah, maybe." Her mother smiled, kissed her forehead, and left to tend to the chaos downstairs. Elena collapsed back against the pillows, the smile vanishing the second the door closed. The hours crawled. Afternoon light slid across the floor. Messages kept piling in. One from Nathaniel finally made her open the thread. "Meet me. Just talk. Don't throw us away over one mistake." Her hands clenched. Us. As if he hadn't already destroyed the very meaning of that word. She typed a reply, then deleted it, over and over. Finally, she tossed the phone aside and pressed her face into her pillow. By evening, she found herself walking along the edge of the garden outside, where rows of white chairs had already been set up for tomorrow's ceremony. Ribbons fluttered in the warm breeze, lanterns twinkled in the trees. It should have been magical. Instead, it felt like standing inside a graveyard of dreams. Her cousin Sophia found her there, barefoot in a flowing yellow sundress, curly dark hair pinned with daisies. She was younger, only 23, and had always looked up to Elena like an older sister. "You okay?" Sophia asked softly. Elena forced her voice steady. "Just thinking." "About Nathaniel?" Elena's lips parted, panic flashing through her chest. "Why?" Sophia shrugged. "I don't know. You've just seemed off all week, like something's wrong." Elena blinked hard, fighting the sting of tears. She wanted to confess, to pour it all out, but her throat locked again.
Instead, she touched Sophia's arm. "I'm fine. Just wedding nerves, that's all." Sophia smiled, believing her. "Well, nerves or not, you'll be the most beautiful bride tomorrow." She hugged her and skipped back toward the house. Elena stood frozen among the chairs, a hollow bride in a hollow ceremony. Inside, laughter drifted from the kitchen as relatives sampled hors d'oeuvres. From the outside, the world looked perfect. From the inside, Elena was drowning. She resisted the truth with every breath, resisted telling her mother, resisted telling her cousin, resisted picking up the phone and screaming at Nathaniel and Lila.
But resistance is only a pause. It cannot last forever. And deep down, Elena knew the truth would come crashing in, whether she was ready or not. Have you ever ignored your instincts because the truth felt too heavy to face? What happened? Share your story. I'd love to hear how you handled it. By the time evening settled over the Rossi family estate, the house was alive with relatives and friends. Laughter echoed from the kitchen, children darted across the lawn, and the scent of rosemary and roasted garlic spilled from the ovens. From the outside, it was a celebration blooming in full color. Inside Elena Rossi, however, it felt like a cage. She had avoided Nathaniel all day. She hadn't answered his calls, hadn't responded to his messages. But now, as her mother insisted on gathering both families for a formal rehearsal dinner in the grand dining room, there was no more avoiding. He would be there, and so would Lila. She smoothed the pale blue wrap dress she had slipped on minutes earlier. Its soft fabric should have felt comforting. Instead, it clung to her like a shroud. She slipped her feet into nude sandals, her hands trembling as she fastened a delicate silver bracelet, a gift from Lila years ago, back when they were inseparable. The bracelet felt like it burned against her wrist. She forced herself down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. The dining room glowed with candlelight, crystal glasses set neatly along the long oak table, plates gleaming white against embroidered runners. Nathaniel was already there, dressed immaculately in a tailored charcoal gray suit, white shirt open at the collar to look casual, though every line of him screamed precision. His blonde hair was perfectly in place, his smile perfectly rehearsed. When he saw Elena, his eyes flickered. Relief, then calculation. He stood, pulling out her chair with practiced charm. "Darling?" She froze at the word. It used to melt her. Now it sounded like poison. Still, under the watchful eyes of her parents and his, she forced herself to sit. And then came Lila. She swept into the room in a cream-colored blouse with delicate lace sleeves, paired with a high-waisted black skirt that brushed her knees. Gold studs winked from her ears, her dark curls pulled back in a loose bun. She looked flawless, polished, like a maid of honor should. Only Elena could see the stiffness in her smile, the flicker of shame in her eyes. Their gazes met. For a fraction of a second, everything else disappeared. The candles, the families, the laughter. Just the hollow ache of betrayal stretched between them. Elena tore her eyes away before her mother could notice. Dinner began with toasts. Nathaniel's father, a silver-haired man in a navy blazer, raised his glass. "To my son and his beautiful bride-to-be. May tomorrow mark the start of a lifetime of joy." Applause, laughter, glasses clinking. Elena lifted her champagne, but the bubbles fizzed against her throat like acid. Across the table, Nathaniel smiled at her with the perfect expression of a man in love. No one else could see the crack in that smile. Only she could. "Say something, Elena," her father urged warmly. His deep voice carried down the table. She swallowed hard. The entire room waited. Her voice came out thin, trembling but audible. "Thank you, everyone, for being here. It means the world to us." Us. The word nearly choked her. She sat down quickly, her nails digging crescents into her palms beneath the table. Through the meal, she felt the tension like a wire stretched too tight. Nathaniel leaned close once, whispering so low only she could hear. "We need to talk. Later." She flinched, pretending to sip her wine. "There's nothing left to say," she hissed back without moving her lips. His jaw tightened, but he didn't press, not with all the eyes around them. Lila stayed mostly quiet, speaking only when spoken to, yet her silence screamed louder than words. Every time Elena glanced up, Lila's eyes were there, pleading, aching, as though she could apologize without opening her mouth. Elena snapped her gaze away each time. Forgiveness was impossible. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. When dessert was served, Sophia, Elena's younger cousin, bounced up from her chair with a grin. let's rehearse the vows. It'll be fun, like practice. Elena's stomach dropped. Her mother laughed, clapping her hands. That's a wonderful idea. Come, Elena, Nathaniel, just a quick run-through. Everyone will love it. The room buzzed with approval. Nathaniel smiled smoothly, standing and offering his hand. Shall we, my love? She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But under the eyes of 2 families and dozens of relatives, she had no choice. Her body moved on autopilot, her hand sliding into his. They stood at the head of the table, facing each other. He gazed at her with practiced adoration, his blue eyes steady, his jawline sharp under the candlelight. To anyone else, they looked like the perfect couple. Elena's throat closed, her heart hammered. She couldn't do this. Nathaniel began, voice steady. I, Nathaniel Cole, promise to love and cherish you, to stand by you in all things, to... The words blurred in her ears, every syllable twisting the knife deeper. She saw Leela at the corner of her vision, hands folded in her lap, eyes glistening. Suddenly, Elena couldn't breathe. Her voice cracked. She shook her head violently. I can't. The room fell silent. Forks clattered. Chairs squeaked. Every eye turned to her. Elena's chest heaved, her hands trembling. She forced a brittle smile and waved a hand. Sorry, just nerves. I'll be fine tomorrow. Nervous laughter rippled around the table. Conversations restarted, though the energy had shifted. Nathaniel squeezed her hand hard enough to hurt. We will talk later, he muttered under his breath. Elena's eyes burned, but she said nothing. Later, when the last of the guests filtered out and the candles burned low, Elena found herself alone in the hallway outside her room. Her body shook as she leaned against the wall, palms pressed to her eyes. And then, Leela's voice. Elena. She froze. Leela stood a few steps away, hands clasped in front of her, eyes red and swollen despite the flawless makeup she had reapplied before dinner. She whispered, Please, just 5 minutes. I need you to hear me. Elena's breath caught. Every instinct screamed to run, to slam her door shut. But the house was quiet, the world suddenly too small. She couldn't escape. And for the first time since the betrayal, she turned to face Leela. If you were in Elena's place, would you let Leela explain, or would you shut her out completely? What would you do in that hallway? The hallway was silent except for the faint hum of cicadas outside the window. Elena Rossi stood frozen, her back pressed against the wall, her fingers curling into the fabric of her pale blue dress. Across from her, Leela Alvarez looked smaller than Elena had ever seen her. She wasn't the dazzling maid of honor who always commanded rooms with her laughter and style. Tonight, her cream blouse hung loose on her frame, her black skirt rumpled, her shoulders slouched like someone carrying a secret too heavy to bear. Elena, Leela whispered again, her voice raw. Please, just 5 minutes. Elena's throat tightened. Why should I give you even 5 seconds? Because I owe you the truth. Leela's brown eyes shimmered with tears. Please. Elena hesitated, every muscle in her body screaming to run, to slam her bedroom door shut and never hear another word. And yet, her heart, bruised and bleeding, needed answers, needed something to make sense of the nightmare. She nodded stiffly. 5 minutes. No more. They stepped into Elena's childhood room. The wedding gown still hung in the corner, glowing faintly in the lamplight, a cruel reminder of what had been stolen. Leela sank onto the edge of the bed, twisting her fingers together, while Elena remained standing, arms folded tight across her chest.
Talk, Elena said, her voice sharp. Lila inhaled shakily. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to ever look at me again. But you have to know, it wasn't just lust. It wasn't some thrill. It was... She broke off, covering her face. It was a weakness, and Nathaniel knew exactly how to use it. Elena's stomach churned. Use it? Lila lifted her head, tears streaking her cheeks. You know how I've struggled, Lena. Always second best. Always watching you get everything. The scholarships, the internships, the attention. I loved you. I was proud of you, but there was always this
shadow. I hated myself for feeling it. And Nathaniel, he saw it. He saw right through me. Elena's arms dropped slowly to her sides. He started months ago, Lila confessed, her voice cracking. Little comments, little compliments. When you weren't around, he'd tell me I was radiant, that I deserved more than to live in someone else's light. He fed every insecurity I had until I started believing him. And when he kissed me the first time, I told myself it meant nothing. But it was like poison, Lena. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. And last night, she broke again, sobbing into her hands. Last night was the end, the lowest I've ever fallen. Elena staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth. So it wasn't just once. Lila's silence was enough. Elena's knees weakened. She sank into the chair by her vanity, the mirror reflecting her hollow eyes. How could you? Her voice shook with fury and grief. You were my sister, my maid of honor, and you let him... Her voice broke. She covered her mouth to keep from screaming. Lila crawled closer, her knees brushing the carpet. Because I was weak, Elena. Because he's a predator. He knew exactly what he was doing. I swear to you, it wasn't love. It wasn't even wanted. It was manipulation. Elena stared at her, mind spinning. Flashes came back. The way Nathaniel always praised Lila's quick wit in front of others, the way his hand lingered a moment too long on her shoulder, the way he would insist Lila stay late to help with details when Elena grew tired of planning. She had noticed them all. She had buried them, telling herself she was imagining things. And now, confirmation. Her stomach churned. He ruined you, Elena whispered. No, Lila said firmly, gripping Elena's hand, despite the recoil. I ruined myself by letting him. But you have to see him clearly. He isn't who you think he is. He's not just arrogant, he's dangerous in the way he twists people. Don't walk down that aisle, Lena. He'll destroy you too. A silence stretched between them, heavy and raw. The wedding gown gleamed behind them like a ghost. Finally, Elena pulled her hand free. You betrayed me, Lila. Whatever his poison was, you chose to drink it. Don't you dare pretend you were powerless. Lila's tears spilled freely. I know. I'll never forgive myself for that. I just didn't want you to hate me without knowing why. Elena rose slowly, her body trembling. She walked to the closet and shut the gown inside, closing the door with trembling hands. I hate you both, but at least now I know the truth. She turned back. Lila's eyes searched hers for some fragment of mercy. There was none. Get out! Lila opened her mouth, then closed it. Shoulders slumping, she stood and walked to the door. At the threshold, she paused. He'll try to charm you. Don't let him. Please, Lena, for your own sake. The door shut softly behind her. Elena collapsed onto the bed, pulling her knees to her chest. The tears she had resisted all day came now, violent and hot. Her mind churned with images, Nathaniel's polished smile, Lila's broken confession, the gown sealed behind the closet door. Her life had been built on illusions, and now they lay in ruins at her feet. She wept until her body ached, and somewhere deep inside, a seed of anger took root. She wasn't just betrayed. She had been deceived, played, used. And she wasn't sure how much longer she could keep pretending tomorrow would happen at all. Do you believe Lila's confession that she was manipulated by Nathaniel? Or is betrayal always a choice, no matter the reason? Comment below with your thoughts. Elena Rossi woke to the sound of birdsong and the faint murmur of voices outside her bedroom window. Her head ached, swollen from tears, her body heavy as though she had run a marathon in her sleep. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then she saw the ivory gown hanging behind the closet door, and the memories came crashing back. The betrayal, the confession, the wreckage of everything she thought her life would be. She sat up slowly, the pale morning light spilling over her. She pressed her face into her hands, whispering, "What do I do now?" A soft knock at the door made her flinch. She swallowed hard. "Yes?" The door creaked open and Sophia stepped inside, clutching a mug of coffee. Her yellow sundress from yesterday was replaced by a simple lavender hoodie and leggings, her curly hair tied into a messy bun. She looked younger than ever, sweet, unpolished, unassuming, but her dark eyes carried a warmth that could pierce through steel. "I thought you might need this," Sophia said gently, setting the mug on the nightstand. Elena's throat tightened. "Thanks." Sophia didn't move to leave. She lingered at the foot of the bed, her hands clasped nervously. "Lena, I don't want to pry, but I know something's wrong. I've always known when you're not okay. And last night, you were pale as a ghost." Elena looked down at her trembling hands. She wanted to lie. She wanted to tell Sophia it was just nerves, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, her chest cracked open.
"It's over," she whispered. "The wedding. Everything. He's not who I thought he was." Sophia's face softened, her brows knitting. She moved closer, sitting carefully at the edge of the bed. "What did he do?" Elena's voice shook as she spoke. "He betrayed me with the one person I trusted most." For a heartbeat, silence. Then Sophia's hand slid gently over Elena's. "Ah, Lena." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry." The tenderness undid Elena. Her tears spilled again, but this time she didn't hold them back. She leaned into Sophia's shoulder, sobbing until her body shook, and Sophia didn't flinch, didn't pull away. She wrapped her arms around Elena, holding her as though nothing, not judgment, not shame, could enter that space. Minutes stretched. Elena's sobs softened into hiccups, then silence. She wiped her cheeks, embarrassed. God, I must look like a mess. Sophia tilted her head, smiling softly. You look human. Perfect brides don't exist, Lena, but strong women do, and that's who you are. Elena blinked at her cousin, struck by the quiet conviction in her voice. Sophia was younger, but at this moment, she felt older, steadier. You've always had this glow, Sophia continued, her eyes glimmering. People orbit around you because you make them feel seen. But you don't need someone like Nathaniel to validate that. You don't need a perfect wedding to prove you're worthy. You already are. Elena's throat burned. How did you get so wise at 23? Sophia laughed softly, shrugging. Maybe because I've made mistakes too. Not like this, but I know what it's like to love the wrong person, to let it eat at you until you don't even recognize yourself. Their eyes met. Something unspoken lingered in the air. Recognition, shared pain, shared survival. Later, they walked together through the garden. The wedding chairs gleamed white against the morning sun, the aisle draped with rose petals. Elena paused at the sight. It's beautiful, and it's all a lie. Sophia slipped her arm through Elena's, grounding her. Then maybe tomorrow doesn't have to be a wedding. Maybe it can be something else. Elena frowned. Like what? Like a beginning. Not with Nathaniel, not with the lies. With yourself. With the people who actually love you. Elena let out a shaky laugh. You make it sound easy. It's not, but it's worth it. As they walked, Elena felt a strange warmth in her chest. For the first time since the betrayal, she wasn't alone.
Sophia's presence was quiet but steady, like a lantern in the dark. At one point, Sophia bent to pluck a daisy growing wild near the fence. She tucked it gently into Elena's hair. "There, you don't need diamonds to look radiant." Elena's lips trembled into the first genuine smile she'd managed in days. For a moment, everything else, Nathaniel's lies, Lila's betrayal, the weight of shame, fell away. For a moment, it was just two women, bound by blood and something deeper, standing in a garden of shattered dreams and daring to imagine new ones. That evening, as the house buzzed again with relatives, Elena found herself by the fireplace, Sophia beside her. Guests laughed, clinked glasses, and made plans for tomorrow. None of them knew the truth yet.
Nathaniel entered the room, his polished presence commanding immediate attention. His gaze swept across the crowd and landed on Elena. He smiled as though nothing had happened, as though last night were a dream. But this time, when Elena met his eyes, she didn't crumble. She felt Sophia's hand resting on her arm, grounding her. She held Nathaniel's gaze steady, unflinching. And for the first time, he looked away. Do you think true healing comes from confronting those who hurt us, or from finding support in those who love us unconditionally? Share your thoughts in the comments. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be joyous, a prelude to vows and forever. Instead, Elena Rossi sat stiffly at the head table, her smile brittle, her fork untouched. The clinking of glasses and bursts of laughter felt like echoes from another life. Across the table, Nathaniel Moreau charmed effortlessly. His navy blazer fit like armor, his cufflinks gleamed, and his words dripped honey. Guests leaned in, spellbound. He was every inch the perfect fiancé, the man people envied, and Elena hated him for it. Beside her, Sophia sat quietly, a steady hand resting against Elena's knee under the table. It was the only thing keeping her from bolting. Then Nathaniel stood, raising his glass. "To Elena," he said, his voice warm and commanding, "the most extraordinary woman I've ever known. Tomorrow I will become the luckiest man alive." The crowd erupted in cheers, glasses lifted high. Elena's heart twisted. She knew every word was a performance, a carefully rehearsed act. But then, his eyes flicked toward her, sharp and cutting beneath the mask, and she realized this wasn't just a toast, it was a warning. Later, after the dinner wound down, Elena slipped outside into the garden, desperate for air. The roses glistened under lantern light, but their fragrance sickened her. She leaned against the railing, pressing her hand to her chest.
Footsteps approached. She turned, pulse quickening. Nathaniel. He carried the same easy smile he'd worn all night. "There you are, my runaway bride." Elena stiffened. "Don't call me that." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You've been distant, cold, but that's nerves, isn't it? Every bride gets them. Tomorrow, you'll stand beside me, and all of this," he gestured to the house, the family, the celebration, "will be ours." Elena's jaw clenched. "I know what you've done." Nathaniel's smile didn't falter. "Do you?" The silence was thick. Elena forced herself to speak. "I know about Lila. I know you manipulated her, used her." For the first time, his expression hardened. Then he laughed, low and cruel. "Manipulated? Darling, she came to me, again and again. You think I chase scraps when I already have the whole feast? No, Elena, she wanted me. She begged for me, and I gave her what you—" He leaned in, his breath hot against her ear. "Never had the courage to give." Elena's chest tightened. She shoved him back, her voice shaking. "You disgust me." Nathaniel smirked. "Careful. People are watching. Do you really want them to know their perfect bride is a paranoid mess, that you're willing to throw away millions, security, a future, because of a rumor?" Elena's vision blurred with fury. "It's not a rumor. It's the truth.
He tilted his head, feigning pity. And who will they believe? The brilliant financier with spotless charm, or the hysterical bride who can't keep her story straight? Sophia appeared then, rushing down the steps, her face pale. Alina, is everything okay? Nathaniel's smile sharpened. Ah, the little cousin, always hovering. Tell me, Sophia, have you confessed to Alina how much you've wanted her to yourself? How convenient, swooping in now that her heart is broken. Sophia froze, her cheeks flushing red. That's not true. Alina's stomach dropped. Nathaniel wasn't just cruel, he was strategic. Every word is designed to isolate her. He stepped closer to Alina, voice dripping poison. Be careful who you trust. The people closest to you always have the sharpest knives. The air between them shattered. Alina's voice rose, sharp and broken. Enough! You won't twist this anymore, not with me. But Nathaniel only smiled, slow and sure, as though he'd already won. We'll see, darling. Tomorrow, everyone will. With that, he turned, strolling back into the house as though nothing had happened. Alina stood trembling, her chest heaving, tears burning hot in her eyes. She turned toward Sophia, desperate for something steady, but Sophia looked shaken, hurt by Nathaniel's words. Don't listen to him. He lies. He twists everything. Sophia nodded, but her eyes flickered with something Alina had never noticed before, something unspoken. And in that moment, Alina felt the fragile bond she had built begin to crack. She stumbled back toward her room, heart splintering, gown looming behind the closet door like a specter of all she had lost. She sank to the floor, sobbing into her knees. This was the lowest she had ever been, caught between betrayal, manipulation, and the terrifying possibility that Nathaniel might be right. Maybe she had no one left to trust at all. When someone twists the truth so convincingly, do you think it's harder to fight back or to trust the people who stand by you? Share your thoughts below. The house had grown eerily quiet after the rehearsal dinner ended. Laughter and music had faded into the night, leaving only the faint hum of cicadas outside. Elena Rossi sat on the edge of her bed, still in the pale blue dress she hadn't bothered to change out of. Her hands clutched the fabric so tightly it wrinkled beneath her fingers.
The ivory gown hung in the corner like a ghost, mocking her with every shift of the light. Tomorrow, she was supposed to wear it. Tomorrow, she was supposed to smile. Tomorrow, she was supposed to vow forever. But tomorrow had already been poisoned. Her thoughts churned like a storm. Nathaniel's words replayed on a cruel loop. Be careful who you trust. The people closest to you always have the sharpest knives. She thought of Lila's betrayal, of Nathaniel's lies, of Sophia's silence after his cruel insinuation. Could she really trust anyone? Or was she truly alone in this? Elena buried her face in her hands. For the first time, the crushing weight of shame nearly convinced her to give in. Maybe Nathaniel was right. Maybe she was nothing without him. But then, an image surfaced. Sophia's hand in hers in the garden, her soft voice saying, "You already are enough." That memory glowed like a lantern in her mind. Fragile, but undeniable. The door creaked open. Elena stiffened. Sophia stood there in the dim light, her hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands, her face pale but determined. She closed the door gently behind her. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "Neither could I," Elena swallowed. Sophia hesitated, then crossed the room, sitting at the edge of the bed. Her presence was tentative, like someone approaching a wounded animal. "Lena, what he said about me, it's not true. I would never—" "I know," Elena interrupted softly. Her voice cracked, but her eyes were steady. "I know Nathaniel twists everything. He tried to break me tonight, and for a moment, he almost did." Sophia reached for her hand. "But he didn't." Elena looked down at their joined fingers. "Not yet, but tomorrow?" Her voice trailed off. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air. Silence stretched. Then Sophia said carefully, "You don't have to go through with it. Not for him,
not for appearances, not for anyone. Elena let out a trembling laugh. Do you know what happens if I walk away? The headlines, the shame, the judgment. My family spent months preparing. Everyone's here. What do I tell them, that the dream wedding was a lie? Yes, Sophia said firmly, because it is a lie, and you deserve the truth. Her conviction startled Elena. She turned, studying her cousin's face. Her eyes glimmered with something fierce. I've watched you my whole life, strong, brave, but also carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. You don't owe Nathaniel your life. You don't owe the world their perfect fairy tale. You owe yourself honesty. That's it. Tears welled in Elena's eyes. She squeezed Sophia's hand tighter. And if I stand up there tomorrow and tell the truth? Sophia smiled softly. Then you'll finally be free. For the first time in days, Elena inhaled deeply, filling her lungs with air that didn't taste like poison. She sat straighter. The knot in her chest loosened just enough for courage to slip in. Maybe Nathaniel was right. Maybe she was nothing without him. But Elena had something he didn't. She had a choice. Hours later, she stood in front of the mirror. Her reflection looked pale, hollow-eyed, but there was a fire in her gaze that hadn't been there before. The gown still hung untouched. Instead, she wore a simple silk slip, her hair loose around her shoulders. She stared at herself until her voice whispered into the stillness. I choose me. The words echoed like a vow. Morning light crept into the room. Guests bustled outside, florists arranging petals, the string quartet tuning instruments. The wedding was moments away. But Elena wasn't dressing for Nathaniel. She wasn't walking down an aisle to appease anyone. She was preparing for the hardest thing she had ever done, to tell the truth, no matter the cost. Sophia appeared in the doorway again, this time with steadier eyes. Are you ready? Elena nodded. For the first time, she truly meant it. Together they walked toward the hall where the ceremony would begin. Elena's heart pounded, but beneath it was something new. Resolve. She knew Nathaniel would fight, twist, and try to humiliate her, but she was no longer the trembling bride-to-be. She was Elena Rossi, and she was about to choose freedom. Would you have the courage to walk away from the perfect wedding if it meant facing judgment but gaining your freedom? Comment on your honest answer. The chapel was a sea of white flowers and candlelight, every seat filled with eager faces. Guests whispered in excitement as the quartet played, the notes lilting like the promise of a fairy tale. Nathaniel Moreau stood at the altar in his tailored tuxedo, his smile wide, polished, practiced. He looked like a man who had already won. Elena Rossi waited in the wings, her pulse a thunder drum in her chest. She wasn't wearing the ivory gown. Instead, she'd chosen a simple cream dress that flowed to her knees. It wasn't bridal, it wasn't extravagant, it was honest.
Sophia squeezed her hand one last time. You don't have to be perfect, she whispered. You just have to be real. Elena nodded, her throat tight. She took one step, then another, until the eyes of every guest turned toward her. Whispers rippled instantly. Where's her gown? Why isn't she dressed? Nathaniel's smile faltered for the briefest second before he caught himself, a charming mask sliding back into place. Darling, he greeted warmly as she approached. Elena stopped halfway down the aisle. Her voice trembled at first, but carried through the chapel. Before this goes any further, I need to speak the truth. Gasps echoed. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed, but his lips stayed curled in a smile. Darling, what are you— Don't, Elena cut in, her voice firmer now. Don't call me that. Not after everything you've done. The silence thickened, guests leaning forward, tension humming in the air. Elena's hands shook, but she held her chin high. This man you see, this perfect fiancé, he's not who you think. Behind closed doors, he lies, he manipulates, and he betrayed me with the one person who was supposed to be my sister and all but blood.
My maid of honor, Lila. A wave of shocked murmurs rolled through the chapel. Nathaniel chuckled softly, spreading his hands like a magician disarming suspicion. Darling, everyone gets cold feet. But slandering me? Really? These people know me. They've seen my work, my charity, my success. Do you honestly think they'll believe? They don't need to believe me, Elena cut in, her voice suddenly steady, blazing with fire. I believe in myself, and I won't marry a man who treats love like a game. I won't bind myself to someone who only knows how to destroy. The crowd's energy shifted. Some guests gasped, others whispered, a few clapped softly, courage sparking in their faces. Nathaniel's mask slipped, just for a breath. His jaw tightened, his eyes hard as steel. You'll regret this, he hissed under his breath, audible only to her. You'll walk away with nothing. Elena straightened her spine. I'm walking away with everything. My dignity, my truth, my freedom. She turned her back to him, facing the stunned congregation. For a heartbeat, she faltered, until she saw Sophia standing at the back, her eyes glistening, her chin lifted in silent solidarity. Strength surged back into her veins. She stepped away from the aisle, toward the guests, her voice firm. This wedding is over. The dream was a lie, but I'm not. And for the first time, I'm choosing me. The room erupted, some outraged, some supportive, many shocked. But Elena didn't care. She moved towards Sophia, her heart pounding with clarity. Sophia reached for her, grounding her with just one touch. Their eyes locked. And in that moment, Elena saw not just family, not just comfort, but the kind of love she had always longed for. Steady, fierce, real. Nathaniel remained at the altar, fuming, but powerless. The perfect image he'd built had cracked, and no polished smile could piece it back together. Elena and Sophia stepped out of the chapel together. The warm sunlight washed over them like a blessing, like rebirth. For the first time in months, Elena felt light. Outside, Elena turned to Sophia, her voice raw but certain. I thought I was losing everything, but maybe I was just clearing space for what I was meant to find. Sophia's smile was small, tender. And what's that? Elena's lips curved into a fragile, genuine smile. Love that doesn't lie. Love that stays. Sophia squeezed her hand, and for the first time, Elena believed she truly had it. That night, the headlines blared. Runaway bride exposes millionaire fiancé. Some mocked, some praised, some speculated. But Elena didn't read them. She sat on the balcony of her family's estate, wrapped in a blanket, Sophia beside her. The stars stretched endless above them, free and unbothered. For once, Elena wasn't planning a wedding, or performing perfection, or suffocating under expectations. She was simply breathing, simply being, and that was enough. When she had once thought, what if everything I've built is a lie? Now she knows the answer. The lie was Nathaniel, but she was the truth. If you were in Elena's shoes, would you have exposed Nathaniel publicly or walked away quietly? Which choice feels braver to you? Comment below. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.